Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of What the Dementia by Bambu Care. I'm your host, Brianna Wilson. I'm a certified dementia practitioner and the founder of Bambu Care, where you can find us at letsbamboo.com. So today we'll be answering 3 questions on the topic of aggression and rude behaviors. And if you have any questions of your own, please be sure to email us at podcast@whatthedementia.com. Or if you are listening to this inside the treehouse, you can submit a request from there as well, okay? Before we get started, I do have a really big announcement. So Bambu Dozens, which is our large 12-piece puzzle collection, will be hosting its first seasonal release of the year on Sunday, March 24th, 2024. Now, here's the catch. It only lasts for 5 days. So it ends on March 28th, 2024 at 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time. All of our puzzles are vibrant, high contrast, and were specifically created by me for people in the mid to late stages of dementia who are easily frustrated by small puzzle pieces and large puzzle counts. Our whole mission is to make puzzling more accessible to people with varying needs and to help create moments of joy one piece at a time. So, for this release, we are introducing 4 new puzzle designs and then bringing back 2 of our popular previous designs from last year. So, if your partner loves puzzles, definitely be sure to check us out at bambudozens.com. You can even sign up for our waitlist on the website if you want to be notified when the seasonal release starts, but if that's not necessary, on March 24th, be sure to check in at bambudozens.com, okay? Now, if you would like to keep up with us between episodes, consider following us on Instagram at Let's Bamboo, joining us in our free support community at letsbamboo.com/champions, or subscribing to our newsletter at letsbamboo.com/newsletter, okay? So let's go ahead and get into the questions. So the first question is, what do you do when a patient hits you? Do you tell them no? This is a great question. And what I want us to do is actually take a step back. Why did the person hit you to begin with? That would be my first question. Most people, even those with dementia, don't just hit someone for no reason. A lot of time we see hitting within dementia care because there is a real or perceived intrusion upon someone's personal space or a disregard of a boundary that has been set. So if a person with dementia is telling you no, guarding their body, pushing you away, and then you still keep doing what you are doing because maybe you have the agenda of helping them get dressed, changing their clothes, taking them to the bathroom, or helping them with a shower. If you continue with this, despite them letting you know, hey, this isn't okay, you may just get hit. I mean, realistically, wouldn't you do the same if someone wasn't listening to you and you felt like you were being violated or disregarded when it comes to your own body? I know I would. I'm telling you now, I'm not a violent person, but I would definitely be hitting and pushing if I felt like I was in an unsafe situation. It's a form of self-defense. So we need to make sure that we are getting permission to touch someone and be in their personal space. And we need to make sure that we are respecting any boundaries that have been set. And then, even once we have permission to be in their personal space, we need to make sure that we are clearly communicating what we are about to do before we do it. Every step of the way, we want the person to know what's going on and feel comfortable with what's going on, even if they are nonverbal. Now, let's say that you've done your best to get permission, you thought things were going okay, and then all of a sudden they hit you. In this situation, do you tell them no? And my answer is no. Them hitting you, although it is not okay, is a form of communication. So a better response would be to back off a bit and say, please don't hit me. What's wrong? Am I making you feel uncomfortable? Or did I hurt you? Listen to what they are trying to communicate and then apologize and adjust your approach. Now, if they have become really upset and are yelling and screaming and all that, just give them space to calm down. You may not even have to leave the room. Just back up and let everyone regroup, okay? Take a few deep breaths and try again. And I'll actually go ahead and link a blog post that we did on the top 6 tips to de-escalate a person with dementia's behavior. So you might find that helpful as well, okay? But my point is, when you pay attention to the emotional needs of someone, it can really improve the interaction that you have with them. And as I always say, unless a person chases you or lunges at you, you can't get hit or kicked if you aren't in someone's personal space. So that would be my recommendation. And of course, if the person is still a threat to your safety, because it is important that you are safe, it may be a good idea to see if someone else can step in to see if they get different results. And if so, they may be able to share notes with you on what was most effective. Now, the next 2 questions are very similar, so I'll read them both and then we'll discuss, okay? So the first question is, she gets really mad at some of the staff members and calls them vulgar names. How can I tell her not to do those things? The second question is, family member with Alzheimer's is getting snappy and rude to staff. Staff tells us, should we bring this up to her? She doesn't remember she's done it. So again, we have to back up and ask if anything in particular elicited the use of vulgar names or the snappy and rude attitude, or did it really just come out of nowhere? You know, sometimes it's hard for us to admit that we may be the problem. Our approach may be the problem. And so in this case, we're talking about the staff members. And this isn't to place blame on anyone. It's just to say that a lot of times, people with dementia are either responding to the energy we are putting out or to something we've done or said. And this is often due to mirror neurons, which are relatively intact for people with dementia and enable us to imitate and understand the actions and behavior of others. And then remember, oftentimes there's also this decrease in filter due to changes in the brain. So sometimes it ends up being this monkey see, monkey do, without the monkey really knowing why or before the monkey can think before they act, okay? So that is why it is so important to check in with your own energy and emotions before approaching someone with dementia. So, with that being said, it would be good to know the context around when the person with dementia is calling the staff names and getting rude and snappy with the staff. So, having the staff properly document and track the behavior would be incredibly helpful because we want to know, well, what is happening when they do that? What's happening before they do that, okay? And based on their findings, they may realize that all they need to do is change their approach, and the person with dementia would receive them differently and therefore respond differently. So real quick, I'll give you an example. So I had this 90-something-year-old patient that had Alzheimer's disease, and she was white, which is important for me to say for the example. She had rotating caregivers, most were Black, and then she had one primary caregiver who was Hispanic. Now, the Black caregivers weren't very happy with her because she would often yell at them and bad talk them, calling them the N-word to her other caregiver who was Hispanic. And understandably so, she kind of felt bad, right? Now, they all thought she was racist, and I'm not here to debate that. But what I will say is that I saw her regularly, a couple of times a week, every single week for a few months. And in case you don't know, I am Black, and never even once did she ever yell at me or call me out of my name. In fact, although she never remembered me by name, she remembered what I would come to do with her, which at the time was primarily addressing her shoulder pain and limited range of motion, as it was impacting her ability to engage in her activities of daily living. And she looked forward to me coming. We would laugh together, sit outside together. She would let me help her in the bathroom, the whole nine. So again, approach matters a lot. And that is my point, okay? Now, as far as should you bring these type of things up to someone with dementia and tell them not to do those things if they are doing or saying rude things, I personally think it would be a waste of time and effort, especially if they aren't going to remember or aren't going to listen because they feel how they are responding to and interacting with the staff is warranted. If anything, I would just want to gather more details so I know what I should possibly bring up to the staff. So, asking my partner with dementia general questions like, "Hey, do you like it here? How are the people treating you? Has everyone been nice to you? Has anyone given you any problems?" Now, keep in mind, their responses may not always be accurate, but it's still worth noting and seeing where the truth lies by also having conversations with the staff. And again, remember, it's not always about what the actual truth is, but the perception of the situation by the person with dementia. And 9 times out of 10, the issue is with the approach. And it's usually nothing personal, though understandably it can feel that way. So that is where I would start. See if there's something that the staff could benefit from doing differently. Okay? But that is all for today's episode. I hope that I was able to effectively answer your questions and that you found this podcast helpful. If you do find our podcast helpful, please consider leaving us a review to help other dementia caregivers find the podcast. And of course, if anyone has any questions, comments, or future podcast requests, you can send us an email at podcast@whatthedementia.com or contact us through letsbamboo.com. Also, don't forget we have our first seasonal release for Bamboo Dozens at bamboodozens.com on Sunday, March 24th. So if your partner loves puzzles, be sure to take advantage of this event. Thank you so much for joining us on another episode of What the Dementia by Bambu Care. We look forward to catching you on the next episode. Take care, and until next time, stay strong, care on, and remember, you are not alone. Bambu Care is always here.